Imagine an elephant. Everybody here in this room can visualize an elephant. Now I'll ask you to erase your memory. Forget everything about the elephant, because you are blind. And the neighbors on your table are blind. Imagine that you have to tell to your neighbors what is an elephant when you are blind and you have never seen one. That is a very, very old story. More than 1,000 years. So what would the blind people do? One of them would touch the tail. Is it a cobra? Another one would touch the body. Is it a wall? Or this kind of leaf near the head? The elephant and the 7 blind people. Coming out of India 1,000 years ago, going to China, to Japan, and coming to the West in the 19th century through a poem. As I said, this is a story, but it's much, much more than a story. It's a narrative. It's a narrative about fragments and parts and systems. It's a narrative about our own failure to see the whole picture. It is about systems and design. All of us have those acquired knowledge. Now, how do we sense the now for shaping the next? That will be the topic for our evening here. How to envision something which yet do not exist. We'll do that in 2 phases. Try to figure the now, and then we'll project ourselves into the future, into the next. Now, when I talk about design, I'm talking about strategic design. I'm not talking about decorative design. And when I talk about narrative, I'm talking about strategic narrative, not dramaturgical narrative. So our challenge here is, how are we going to interconnect the power of design, the topic of this evening, with the power of narrative, because they are intertwined. And I'll ask you to reflect on something you just experienced. The entree you had. Did you notice how many tastes you went through? And you had 2 pieces of bread. Do you remember still that? One with a brioche texture, another one with a sourdough. All this has been designed. Food is designed. What you have been through is the experience of food. Eating is experiencing. So now, to get a sense of now, we have been through 2 cases. The elephant story, acquired knowledge, the food story. This is acquired and experienced knowledge. All this is about getting a sense of the now. And all of us, we have number of assumptions, number of ways of getting sense of what we are doing. And these are interconnected through design. Because design is about change-making, food transformation is about change-making, and narrative is about sense-making. All the stories we are sharing, the anecdotes, all these are parts of making sense. And what we are doing here is interconnecting change-making and sense-making. Seems very simple, seems very obvious, but we have all these paradigms. we have a number of frameworks. What was the framework you used for enjoying your food? 5 tastes. Is it sweet? Is it bitter? Is it sour? Is there umami? And in fact, you have been through your entree, through all this, because it was a conversation and a dialogue between the culinary team and me and the organizational team. We wanted you to experience that. Now we'll have to jump into the future. How are we going to move into places we don't know how things are shaped? The working assumption is the following. If you know what you are doing, you are not designing. You are managing. And of course, we need managers. But we are in an evening called The Power of Design. And allow me to interconnect that with the power of narrative. If we know what we are doing, we are not designing. And in order to structure the journey of getting through spaces where there are unknowns, I'm going to explore with you 3 tools. The first one is abstraction. We need to go into abstraction mode. The second one is scenario. The difference between scenario and story? Scenario here is about things which yet do not exist. We are projecting ourselves into the future. And the third one is prototype. If we don't prototype, we remain in our ivory tower of theory. We have to go there outside in the real life. A system thinker, Donella Meadows, she was telling that anything we are doing, what we think we know, is a model. Every word, every language, any database, any algorithms, any equation, any book, these are all models. And we as designers, we need to get hold of those models because they help us to make sense. So you see how it is interconnected with narrative and design. Making sense and then making change. Abstraction allows us to zoom in, zoom out. Scenario allows us to structure sequence of actions. Prototype allows us to go there and test the assumptions, understand the constraint, look at the contradiction, put all this in coherent and appropriate sense. And that is how we are jumping into the future, into the unknown. So we are going from known, what you have been eating, things you know, the elephant story, and much more. Remember, the elephant story taught us one thing. We know only bits and pieces, fragments. And we need to interconnect and dialogue and interact. And so the power of narrative allows us to do these interactions. The power of design allows us to jump into the unknowns. And we have 2 dimensions which are interconnected. The design dimension, which allows us to explore the possibles, and the narrative dimension, which allows us to express the intention. And when you interconnect the intention to the possibles, then you are getting into spaces which are framed. What you have eaten was design, remember. And any activities that we do as humans is based on this process of designing and then being experienced. So the power of design here, combined with the power of narrative, for any of the CEOs and the managers in the room, will unlock your capabilities. Capabilities to be entrepreneur, capabilities to be innovative, capabilities to craft the future. And on this note, I would like to thank you and project yourself into the future.